Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm sharing day 3 of the 12 days of Stitchmas. This is a stitching die advent calendar from Spellbinders, and for 12 days in a row I'm going to share one of the windows and create something with the die set that is in that window. I'll have all the videos of the 12 days of Stitchmas for 2025 in the same playlist, so if you happen to miss a day, they'll be easy to find and catch up. So for day 3, we have a Christmas tree die set. This is really pretty, and it has its own sentiment with it, a happy holidays banner that goes on top of that tree. So the nice thing about stitching dies is they add some extra texture and dimension when you use them in cards. I create really simple cards with them because I want that stitching die cut or die cut embellishment to be the focal point of that particular card. So I cut my pieces off screen. I will always, or almost always, cut 2 pieces of the stitching piece. So once I'm done stitching that die cut element, I will glue a solid piece on the back of it. It just makes it easier for assembling my cards. For the little star on the top of the tree, I die cut that out of some gold mirror cardstock, and then the part that glues on, I just did that out of white cardstock. My tree is die cut out of some fern cardstock, and then the banner, as well as that little lace piece for the bottom, is die cut out of some poppy cardstock. So I'm going to use some gold floss for my stitching, and typically when I'm doing the stitching dies, there is kind of a method to them. This one, not really. So the stitching is in a grid pattern. Anytime you do stitching or use stitching dies, Spellbinders puts kind of indents or lines where those stitching lines are intended or designed to go. So here for this one, it's kind of a grid pattern. And while I was stitching it, I realized there wasn't really an easy way to go to the next part of that grid without kind of going behind one of the holes that I needed to go up at some point. So what I ended up doing was going up one hole, down another one, and then I looked at it and I went up one that was close to the one that I had just gone down and followed the line where that stitch was supposed to go. I was really curious as I was doing this, if I was going to have some random line that I wasn't easily able to get to, but it totally worked out in the end. The last line was right beside the one that I had just gone down, so it worked out perfectly. I don't think it necessarily matters if you do it in this chaotic pattern that I did here, or if you go kind of methodically and go to the next line there. What I was pointing out there is there was one line, I went a little hole up, so there's a hole that's open that I shouldn't have gone down. I thought about undoing my stitching and correcting it, but I realized that it was such a small amount that there was very little chance that anyone would have noticed other than the fact that I had just pointed it out. Now, after that gold stitching, I considered using some red floss and then doing some kind of swag garland around. I opted not to because I already have my banners and my little lace die cut out of red, so we're getting that red element there anyways, and I didn't want to really detract from that. But that is an option if you wanted to add a little bit of extra stitching to this. So after my stitching was done, and just like my previous videos, anytime I do stitching, I use a little piece of Best Ever craft tape to tape that floss down at the beginning as well as at the end. Then I use my Barely Art glue the back of it, add that solid die cut, and then I use some sewing clips to clip those two together. For the background of this card, I'm using the Damask embossing folder. I typically like to use embossing folders for my backgrounds for a little subtle texture. For this one, because that tree die cut is fairly simple, I'm just adding a little bit of gold ink. This is Lisa Horton Crafts gold ink. It is a beautiful gold. I stuck my piece on my sticky mat so it was nice and flat, and then I just used a really light touch. Always best to use a light touch, and you can always add more ink if you want more ink, but if you end up being too heavy and you get too much on there, you can't take it off. I have a poppy cardstock here that I use for my mat that's trimmed to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And you can see that that's the one that I die cut the banner as well as the lace piece out of. I trimmed down that embossed background after it was embossed to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches before doing that gold ink. And now I'm ready to assemble the pieces onto my tree. So the first thing I assembled was that star that had been drying. Then I'm going to add those lace pieces. Now that lace piece is really easy to add to the bottom. These banners, because they're going over top of that floss, once I have them laid down, I'm going to use my acrylic block just to hold it down nice and flat. This acrylic block is one that I've had for years, and I use it often when I'm gluing die cuts together to just hold everything flat, keeps my hands free for working on other things. And I can see right through it, so I can see if when I put it down, if by chance something shifted or not, I can see that. So I use it all the time, and it comes in so handy. So once I glued that to the front of the card, I let that dry for a few moments with that block on there. And here is the finished card. Again, very, very simple. These cards are fairly quick to make. The thing that takes the longest is the stitching. And even at that doesn't really take that long. But they have so much fun texture to them because of that added stitching. Thank you so much for joining me for the day 3 of the 12 days of Stitchmas. I will be back tomorrow and share what is in day 4. I hope to see you then.